Welcome back to Cheche, the program where opinion counts on Citizen TV. Before the break, we got a breakdown of Safaricom's extraordinary success and why it's been called to build this public safety and security project. And there are a couple of questions from our viewers, several relating to the fact that Safaricom was involved in the March elections last year. Some people, say Ahmed and Wajir, it didn't work. So how can we be sure that anything you undertake, such as this public safety and security project, will work?
Well, it's a year ago, and this discussion has been exercised quite a lot, where we have explained, and indeed the chairman of the IEBC have explained, that what Safaricom were contracted to do was to provide the communication channel. There was no servers at either end for us. And the communication channel worked 100%. It wasn't 99.9%. So it was 100% uptime. And whilst there was a lot of confusion because there's a lot of noise around the election, people seem to have kind of missed the point and have not heard what we've said, nor have they heard what the IEBC has said, and that is that Safaricom did not provide any service. They didn't do anything else apart from provide a virtual private network for IEBC, and it worked.
Okay, there's a fairly technical question from Tom in Mombasa. Layman figures are that you have 1,800 cameras at 15 billion, which would make it 8.3 million per camera. I read in the press the other day that the UK almost did the same at 900,000 per camera. Why is there such a disparity? I suspect the disparity is also working with different currencies.
Well, I mean, the disparity is because what he's done is he's divided 14 billion by cameras. We're not just providing cameras. We're providing a full private network for the police, plus the command and control center, plus the handsets, plus everything else.
Agolo in Eldoret. Granted, Safaricom has the capacity to undertake this project. I surmise that the lawmakers' skepticism has to do with the sensitivity of the project. What assurances can you have that it will not be infiltrated?
Well, I think we've answered that question. We're running the network. And actually, the LTE or 4G, LTE is long-term evolution. It is actually much better encrypted than even the network you're running today. It is
I suppose the question basically is that, we hear about hackathons and, famous hackers. There's always something that's infiltrated. So how do you ensure that doesn't happen? We've seen Amazon come down, eBay's come down. So why are you so confident that the system that you build cannot be brought down?
No, we didn't say it can't be brought down. I think if it's been built by man, then it could be broken by man. So I would be foolish to say that it can't be brought down. I'm saying that has a higher level of security than the current network that we use commercially.
Right. David, before the break, you're going to ask a question.
Just on the matter of the appearance before the parliamentary committee, maybe because, we don't have the benefit of any of them being here, but maybe you can, speaking on both sides, what were the three main issues that they have with this whole partnership or project, single-sourced award to Safaricom?
Well, look, I think many of the questions which they asked, you guys have asked this morning, which is, can we infiltrate the system? But I think the fundamental issue that they had actually didn't really relate so much to us. It related to the process. And trying to investigate was this the government followed due process in the award of this tender and subsequently in the contract, if the contract is awarded, right? Because, again, the other confusion which I see a lot of people have is that the contract has been awarded. The contract has not yet been awarded because Parliament is going through its process. But I think it's a question of process.
It's about process mainly.
Absolutely.
And the pricing of it?
Yes, they did interrogate the pricing.
Because they had no comparative, to really raise, isn't it?
So I think what assuaged some of their concern was the fact that this is an open book process.
Like when you look at it?
So every cent that we pay, that we spend, they can see it and they can interrogate it, and they can say, yes, it was justified, or no, it wasn't justified.
Okay, was another
Which actually, in some ways, interestingly, one of the questions that I was asked is, how do you ensure the Kenyans are getting good value for money?
Yes.
Because if we'd gone to a tender, we would have had more confidence about it. But actually, no, because what you'd have done is you'd have gone for the lowest available price.
Right.
You wouldn't have gone for cost. And don't forget, because Safaricom is saying we don't want to make a markup, we're not intending to make a markup, everything that we spend will be fully transparent to government, and that's what they spend.
Okay,
So
Wanyama Nothiro brings back the question.
He's been pushing
Are you pushing? Are you still on the same issue?
Yes, on the same matter. Right. Earlier on, I asked you about whether this is a best practice and why this is borrowed from Europe, now Venezuela and a couple of other countries. But
20 other countries.
20 other countries. But the question then is, what would have been the alternative if this wasn't the case?
I don't know.
What do others do? I'm sure this is not used by the US. This is not the kind of thing that is
this is exactly the system which is being used by the New York Police Department.
Right.
And if you look at, the other question, I'm going to give you an answer to a question which you haven't asked yet. But a lot of people say, isn't this going to be a breach of my privacy? Wow. Now, I lived in London in the days of the IRA. I lived in London in the days when, if you walked on Oxford Street, your pocket will be empty when you get to the other end. That no longer happens because we have surveillance cameras. And in most advanced countries, most developed countries, there's surveillance cameras everywhere. And so if you don't have anything to hide, then it's not a problem. So this is a system which has been deployed in the most advanced countries. And I was in New York last week. Wherever you look, you can see a camera. And it's the same system.
Yeah, it's just who is the service provider. That is really the question. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Is this the best practice that governments enter into this kind of arrangements, or there is another option B, but this is preferred? And if that was option B, what would it be?
Well, option B could be that you have an international tender. But my suspicion is if you have an international tender, there's not a single non-Kenyan company that's going to say, I'm going to do it without a markup, without making a profit.
That's right.
Is my guess. But I mean, I guess you can probably try.
And what is the rationale you said that you give it without making a markup? The rationale is you want peace. You want security.
Yeah, and don't you?
Everybody does.
Is that the only rationale? You would have a rationale where you say, we're not going to cost you on the establishment because we'll make a markup on operation.
So let me ask you a question.
Like you give me a phone and say, okay, I'm giving you this bamba, Mulikat Mwizi, but I know that every time you use it, I'm going to make my money from you buying my airtime.
So it's the razor blade thing, right? So you sell the razor blade for cheap and then... Let me ask you a question. If you had gone to hotels on the coast 5 or 10 years ago and said, I want you to contribute to the safety and security of this country, do you think they'd have said yes? No, they'd have said, me, I'm running a commercial organization. I have shareholders to think about. Go and ask them now. Those hotels that have 5% occupancy, go and ask them now, did they wish they had done something about security? Not that they could have done, but if they could, would they have done? The answer is yes, absolutely. We're the biggest company in this country. We have 600,000 shareholders to look after. And when I run a company, I don't run the company for year-end numbers. I run the company to make sure that 10 or 20 years from now, it still is successful. And it's not going to be successful if we don't have a country where security is secure.
Actually, I'll come to the panelists because part of the narrative about what's going on in Kenya and the insecurity has to do with greed. Yeah? And so that's the question you've put to Bob here. And so the question I'll ask you is that why do you find it absurd that a company would want to altruistically invest in security infrastructure?
First of all, that is not our habit, I must say. We have not come across companies that want to do something, gratuitously for the public, that, look, we need security so we can all do business. In fact, especially if that security is not directly related to your operations. A hotel needs operations, it's people who come there. Safaricom is virtual, although of course it has shops and it has a presence.
You need people to buy your SIM cards though and use your network.
So they shouldn't. But I would say, especially because this was initiated by the government. It wasn't Safaricom saying we are offering 30 billion or 50 billion shillings to help improve Kenya's security. Would have said, okay, build houses for our policemen.
But
we would have said something else, for example.
Let me just come to Mutegi before you come in, Bob. Mutegi, you're finding it difficult to believe in any sort of altruistic motive here.
He says that he's not interested in the bottom line at the end of the year. Then his company should fire him because that's exactly why he's hired, to make money.
No, that's a very, it's a very dated approach. And I didn't say I'm not interested in making money. I say I don't run my company purely for the year-end results, because that's a very short-sighted way of doing it.
I run my company. Every end of the year you give a result.
Oh, we do.
And you always make money, 20 billion.
and it's not a bad set of results, usually.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's not a bad set of results is because we don't just focus on the profit. We focus on all those other things. You know, you could easily challenge me and say, so why is it that you're spending, you know, let me give you maternal health. Over the past 5 years or so, we've spent some 200 million shillings on maternal health. Why would we even care? You know, why is that an issue for Safaricom?
You need people. You need people
Exactly.
to buy your card.
Exactly. And we also need a country which is secure. Cheche, you know, if you come to our building, you know, it's not an easy building to get into. I would rather not be spending that money on building my headquarters like a fortress. You know, I'd rather not have armed security in each of my shops. And so would the police. You know, even getting in here, you have armed security standing outside. Yeah. Wouldn't you prefer not to have that? And if you if you continue to have that, if you continue to have to invest in guns and policemen, then, you know, we don't have a country which is going to be an attractive country for investors. You know, you said that I'm not interested in the bottom line. Yeah, we are interested in the bottom line. We're interested in the bottom line, and we are as effective at that bottom line as anyone else, if not more so.
Okay. There's a question here from Wanyama in Othero, and this goes back to what you said about not being able to tell what conversations or messages are going through on your network. And it says they don't know the SMS content. Yet in March, his colleague at Safaricom was on a live interview declaring that hate speech would be disallowed. They claim to screen and stop the spread of hate SMSs with a few minutes delay. He denied the link between the IBC, Safaricom, Kenswitch, and TNA. So there's that, which goes to, you know, how much, you know, whether you can actually monitor the communications. And then there's this other one. It's tempting to feel reassured when you hear what the Bob Collymore is saying on security. But can he explain how some ordinary people have been able to track their partners' communication, text and calls through collusion with some employees at his firm without court orders?
Yes. Ex-employees is the answer to that question. Because I take a very dim view, and I warn my people whenever they join the company. I see them all. I warn them that if they tamper with customer information, then they'll be fired. And they'll be fired and they'll be taken to court as well if they've broken privacy, the customer's privacy. So, yes, it does happen. You know, I'd be lying if I said it doesn't.
So you can actually get a sense of people's messaging.
No, not the content.
Not the content.
Not the content, but if you're having an affair with him, which I hope you're not.
No.
Then
why not?
I'm sure. Then the information. He feels very flattered now. Serious. Then the information which is which tends to be leaked is. Did you speak to him? Not what did you say to him?
Okay. Yeah. So you really
and the whole Kenswitch issue, because there's again he's put a whole load of issues in there. The whole Kenswitch issue, I thought that was kind of cleared up a long time ago, which is the Kenswitch did something else. I mean, what they were doing, it's actually Ken Call, I think.
Right. Well, clearly there's still some confusion, and so it helps to have you here to address it. And so what you've told us is that you have no access to content, whether it's voice or text, none at all. Okay, but as you keep saying, you have a focus on the bottom line. You are the largest taxpayer in the country, most successful company, but your market dominance is under threat from equity. We were talking about that before we came on air. You know, you've got this huge M-Pesa business. Equity is moving in on that. How are you responding to that?
And many other players.
Many other players, actually. I think there's a link between equity and Mobicash. Yeah,
3 or 4.
Yeah.
There are lots. Kenya is not a non-competitive market. Kenya has more mobile operators, more mobile money systems than anyone else. You know, we have Mbenki, and incidentally later we'll be announcing a strategic partnership with KCB. We have
later today.
Tangaza, we have Airtel Money, we have Ucash, so we're not strangers to competition, but we don't run our business focusing on the competition. We run our business focusing on the customers, but actually more comprehensively on 8 set of stakeholders, and none of those stakeholders include the competition. It includes government, it includes society, it includes shareholders, customers, etc., but not the competition.
The regulator, the Communications Authority, the Communications Authority, though, took a dim view of your attempts to lock out equity. when you raised concerns about, what was it?
Sharing the M-Pesa platform.
No, yes, sharing the platform, that they needed to be checked. They didn't have the correct infrastructure.
You've got a whole lot of confused issues there.
Do I? Okay, so correct me then.
I'm not sure the Competition Authority has had much of a say on any of this. And neither have we tried to lock anyone out. We have invested and continue to invest about 1.2 billion shillings a year in our M-Pesa agent network, which is about 85,000 of them. And, there's been a lot of debate about whether it should be exclusive or not. And you know what we did? We've taken away the exclusivity clause. So there's no exclusivity evasion. So, there's a lot of noise about nothing.
So you didn't write to, just a minute, just a minute, Mutegi. Just a minute.
She's in charge.
You didn't write to the Communications Authority on June 26th, raising integrity and suitability concerns.
That's a different issue.
That's a different issue?
That's
okay,
a
so correct
issue.
us then.
And that issue is to do with a thing called a thin SIM.
Right.
And a thin SIM is like a film which you stick on top of your existing SIM card. And what we've said is that we would like to see the Communication Authority, as well as the GSMA, which is the international industry body that looks at these things, we'd like to see them give us a view on whether this thing will compromise the customer's security. Now, they might give a view and say it doesn't, in which case we're fine with it.
Which they did.
But which they haven't.
Says here that they did. Okay.
And what the thin SIM does is it intercepts the information which goes from your input on the handset onto the SIM card. And the reason why we have a bit of a concern about this, and indeed a number of banks have also got a concern about this, is every time you enter your PIN number, for example, when you go into Barclays, for example, every time you enter your PIN, it has to go through that SIM to get to your SIM card. And so we're saying, is that the case? And if that's the case, then that's wrong. If it isn't the case, then CCK should, or CAK as they're called now, should say, no, it's not a problem, and it's fine. But I believe at the moment it's, we haven't seen a statement. What I've seen is a statement back from Equity, but I think, let's just get the regulators to decide whether it's good or not. I'm not trying to stop Equity. I mean, Equity needs to do what they need to do.
Let's again interrupt you.
I wanted to ask whether, as an M-Pesa agent, I can take Mobicash or any other.
You're entirely at liberty to do it. You're entirely at liberty to do it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm at liberty.
We got rid of those exclusivity clauses way back in February, actually.
Oh,
okay.
So I've listened to all the noise without getting involved in the debate, but it's no longer an exclusive issue. Actually, it's in the papers.
So what does that mean? That everyone has access to M-Pesa?
No, it means
an agent can operate
multiple systems.
3 companies if they want.
Okay.
Now, there's another issue, which is the interoperability issue, which a lot of people have been, again, believing that to be the silver bullet. And they said, you should make it interoperable. And we said, yeah, we should. But actually, it's not that easy. And so we'd like to see the standards and the specification for how we do that. Because, let's say you want to be interoperable with me. He decides he wants to be interoperable with me, then you two also need to be. And that's why standards are set. And so we're actually working with GSMA and the International Telecommunications Union to determine how this thing should be done, so we do it properly. You can't just do it in Kenya. It has to work, because M-Pesa is a system which works in other countries as well. As if you take Airtel Money works in lots of other countries. So I'll have to be interoperable with MTN, with Tigo, with Deutsche Telekom, with all the other systems. So
what happened to the buyout, or is it takeover of the agreement you had to share out, to cannibalize you? What did you, what have you grabbed, and how far is that gone?
When I sat down here, you three said to me that you've got 100 years experience, journalist experience. So it's that experience which is making you use words like cannibalize.
No, that is in, that's with the
sensationalist journalism.
Right. Yeah.
No, I mean that discussion is still on the way. So Airtel, SR, and Safaricom are still in discussion about that. It hasn't died yet.
There are a lot of questions now about the service itself. Say, for instance, why you stopped the postpaid feature.
I'm really glad I came on the show today, because I'm clarifying a lot of stuff which customers are really confused about. So people say we stopped postpaid. We haven't stopped postpaid. We had one tariff, which was called the Caribou tariff. And that was a tariff which was cheaper than a shilling a minute. I've always been one complaining about selling things cheaper than it cost. And so we currently have about 140,000 customers who are sitting on that tariff. And what we said is we're not making this tariff available to new customers coming in. Right? So if you're on it now, you're good to go. And we haven't changed that. Then we have the regular postpaid tariff, which is still there. We're introducing some new tariffs over the course of the next weeks.
Okay, and then there's calling Safaricom. Calling within the network is more expensive than other networks. Is the claim from Kevin in Eton?
Yes, it is. And I think one of my competitors have spent quite a lot of money telling people that. But our rates are our rates. And coming back to the comment I made earlier, is that I run the business so it can be sustainable in the long term. I don't run it for sensationalist tariffs to win customers, because once I win them, I still have to make the business profitable. And so I still have to put, and you're seeing some of my competitors who started the price war and who dropped the price all the way down to 1, and now the price is actually all the way back up to 4.
Right.
So you have to run a business in a sustainable way.
Okay, the integrity of your M-Pesa system, and we all know what happens with M-Pesa. You send it to the wrong number, you can't recoup it, and Safaricom says, sorry, not our problem. And there's several viewers texting in about that.
I know, and viewers have every right to be angry and annoyed about it. We've been working on a fix which my technical team promises me for, I'm going to put them on the spot now, for the 21st of August, which says that if I'm going to send you the money, we put an additional step. It's taken quite a bit of technical work around, just to say, is this the person you want to send it to? Before the money goes. Now that seems like a really simple solution. It has taken a little while to get it fixed. And the reason for that is because it's two separate systems. You've got one billing system here, and you've got the M-Pesa system sitting somewhere else. So we're actually doing that additional check, and that will reduce the number of times that people send money to the wrong number. Then they get very frustrated with us because they said, you didn't reverse the money. Well, actually, legally we can't reverse the money. All we can do is we can call the customer, we can freeze it, and we can call the customer and say, could you send the money back, please? And if the customer says no, because, I actually sold that cup to him, then there's nothing we can do about it.
Supposing
and usually what happens is as soon as someone gets 10,000 shillings or 5,000 shillings received, they just take it straight.
I'm sure it must be very high prevalence. I mean, this mistake. I make it all the time. I mean, I send people, I call Safaricom and say reverse that, I send wrong.
You don't look like the kind of person
no,
who sends people.
I'm a bit careless with money, unfortunately.
Okay. That's good to know.
But I'm wondering, okay, because of that prevalence, would you say, for example, when you do an M-Pesa transaction, you give it 2 minutes or 1 minute interim period, just to give the opportunity to the person who made the error to call back, so that somebody doesn't get the money and flip it to the next person quickly, seeing that human is to error.
Yeah, no, we've looked at that, but you'll need more than 1 minute. And even 1 minute, if you're standing in the queue at Tuskys or Chumi, and
the money comes in,
and you have to wait for a minute before this transaction is done. One of the beauties of M-Pesa is that it is instant. Even me, I'm surprised. I was shopping at the weekend and paying my leap in M-Pesa. I think, wow, man, and I'm still surprised how quickly it works. If you add that delay, I think shops are not going to be happy about that. But we think that this...
Well, what I mean is it's not a delay of the transaction, but for you to effect the money from the recipient, for the recipient to use that money, they'll have 1 minute of that money residing in your account, so that if I made an error, that can be reversed. I know, of course, we're looking for efficiency, but I'm looking for taking care of fairness. So that, because even when I call, I've sent money to a wrong person. By the time they take me through the questions to verify whether it's me, it's a minute gone, and somebody can actually use the money. They'll ask you your ID, whom did you send the number? I mean, they can see exactly where the money went to. Okay, whom did you want to send the money to? You give them the number. Are all those details necessary? But they cost us.
Yeah, because we're a very creative nation, and we'll find a way. We'll find a way through this. And when you pay by cash, you pay by credit card. There's no delay. And so the minute I'm going to be transacting with you, and then there'll be a little bit of a delay once I walk out of the shop with your goods. Yeah. It will lead to a little bit of creativity.
For transaction.
Yeah. We've talked about your success, and that's largely built on your mobile, on your phone calls, but you also provide internet services. But unfortunately, where we have a mobile more than half of the country has access to a mobile phone. Less than half of the country has access to the internet. So how are you addressing that? Because presumably you're seeing opportunities there.
It's considerably more than half. I think if you take our 3G network, the 3G, I can't remember the number exactly, but I think we're probably at about 60% of our network is 3G enabled.
Right.
But also even on 2G, you have what we call GPRS, or sometimes you see E come up. So that's internet enabled. But the thing which is holding back internet penetration is access to smartphones. And so smartphones, we still have about 2 million smartphones, which is less than 10%.
There are a couple of viewers asking, why do you give us bonga points and not cash or phones? They even wanted to know what phone you have.
Well, if you give cash, it's just like, it doesn't kind of work. It's just like giving them a discount. Bonga points is a loyalty point system. In the same way as, if you go into Nakumet, you get loyalty and stuff like that. So it's something which is designed to help you to be loyal. And when you accumulate enough bonga points, which, knowing your bill, when you accumulate enough bonga points, then you redeem them for phones, but you can also redeem them for other stuff. You can even redeem them against Kenya Airways airline tickets.
Right. So are you pushing other uses?
I use a Samsung.
Which one?
Note 3.
Note 3.
I can't afford an S5.
I think our viewers would find that very difficult to believe.
Go ahead. Find out
Mr.
whether you can license other people to do M-Pesa business, to compete with you.
Well, everybody's got their own systems at the moment, so you don't need to license it. I know U-Mobile had been asking for it for some time, but the second part of that answer is that it's not ours to license. It belongs to Vodafone, so we're ourselves licensing it.
And Vodafone agree to give other people to compete with you?
I think technically they can. I don't know whether they will or not. I mean, they're busy trying to roll that into other
As of now, you are not doing it?
As of now, we're not
Those
doing
people who are coming, they're coming on their own platform?
They're building their own platforms, yeah. Okay. Which we think is a good thing. And the interoperability will come in time.
So what do you see then as the future of mobile telephony, telecoms in the country? Are you trying to do more than just the internet, call, voice, data, all of that?
Yeah, so, we have kind of 7 strategic pillars, and our strategy is not a secret. Deepening financial inclusion is absolutely one of them. At the moment, 98% of all transactions are cash, and therefore we see that the market potential is quite large. And which is why, you asked me the question earlier about MVNOs, and I said, we don't actually run our business for our competitors. We think that the market is big enough for a lot more competition. So deepening financial inclusion, but it's not just person-to-person kind of transactions. It's also how do we move into insurance, and we already have Linda Jamii, which is this micro health insurance. We have a pension plan for Juakali workers. We have a whole load of stuff that we're doing around health, around agriculture, using M-Pesa as a base for doing
that. Go ahead, David.
Now, there is this small matter of the secrecy or confidentiality of your subscriber details or data. And people finding they are being assaulted by messages on their phones from, mass, basically spamming your phone. Happened this weekend. People say, NCK
sent
get a message to your phone, attend this national prayer.
Yeah.
What is going on?
On all networks, incidentally, yeah? It wasn't just on Safaricom. I think
yes.
that SMS message went out. And I think it was done by cell site. So the messages went out to people who were on cell sites. It's not about me taking your number and giving to somebody else.
Cell site means what?
A cell site is the base station, is the tower. So we're currently sitting on a particular cell site here. And so I think the message was just simply broadcast to people in that site.
But by who? And whose authority? I mean, how would that happen?
The message, because even me, I got that message. Eh? So the message was approved by the CAK, the CCK,
really,
the regulator. But did you get the message?
I got the message.
Yeah.
I mean, and I was
shocked
shocked that somebody could do that. I mean, and a lot of people took offense. I'm sure you've seen that.
They did take offense.
Online.
They did take offense, and I can't trivialize it. I think I understand why people were upset about what they felt was an invasion of their privacy. But the message was sent out with kind of multi-broadcast.
You don't think that by any stretch of our rights, that is a violation that Safaricom would be held liable for, because you hold my data, you cannot share it whatever cell site or whoever that is has no right to use it?
Well, you know, the data wasn't shared, right? So we didn't give your number to anybody else. It was just a broadcast that went out to the cell sites.